Hi, welcome back to another episode of Advisors Unscripted. I'm your host, Justin Woodbury. Today, I couldn't be more happy to be speaking with Ken Tumolo. Ken is the founder and president of Tumolo Financial. And Ken, thank you so much for being a guest on this podcast.
No, thanks for having me on the podcast.
Yeah, for sure. Ken, I've been looking forward to recording this for some time now, ever since we talked and you agreed to be on here. And I have so many questions because I love what you do and why you do it, which is a big thing that we're going to talk about on the podcast, is why advisors do what they do. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But can you just start off by telling the listeners who is Ken? Give us maybe a little bit of your founder story, why you decided to start Tumolo Financial, and just give some people some background into who you are.
The short answer is I like doing what I do, but but I'll add to it. What we found over the years, and so I've always been good at math. I also have Nick, who works with me. He's my son. His degree is in accounting, and what we found over the years is, people are just good at what they're good at doing. And I've used this example multiple times, and I'll use a nurse as an example. A nurse is good in the medical field. It's something that I can't do. So if I need something medically done, I'm going to see a nurse or a doctor. Whereas maybe finance isn't their thing. And so they'll come to us for the financial planning side of it. But what we find a lot of times is they just don't understand it. And we like to teach as we go too. So we want to give them a good idea of why we're doing what we're doing. This way they're more educated. And I think, we've done like the Tumolo Talks where we do little educational videos. But I really like to teach. One of, how I got into the field was I went back to school for accounting. I actually ran another business before this and knew I was selling it, went back to school for accounting. And I took a finance class, and the finance class was with a woman. She was 70. I'm going to get her age wrong now. It's been a while, but she was in her early 70s, and I really liked the class. And talking to her, she was like, "You probably should go into finance. You shouldn't do accounting. This is more of a fit for you." And it wasn't that I had bad grades in accounting; they were all A's, but but it was really interesting. And what made it even more interesting is she was a CFP, a certified financial planner, like I am. And what she did was she was maintaining her clients while she was in her 70s and teaching. Okay, so what she told me, she doesn't even look for new clients anymore. She just enjoys teaching and helping her clients. And I was like, wow, that's great. I mean, I'd love to do that. There's really no pressure. There's no work pressure or anything. And what I found, even though I'm a lot younger than her, when I entered the field, it wasn't quite the same. You work for some of those big groups and all they want you to do is sell. I wanted to teach a little bit, but also prove things out mathematically, the why. Why are you doing what you're doing, and making sure it's the correct reasons. So I've built on that. I worked for a group, left them to create Tumolo Financial. But big reason why I created Tumolo Financial is I felt I could do a lot more good for people because I can control how many clients I bring on, and I don't have to go into work each day and have to bring a client on. I could just help the people that I'm working with and add people along the way that need my help.
So what's different in how you run Tumolo Financial as far as how many clients you take on as opposed to where you previously worked? I know we've talked about this before, but it was kind of like bring them in, send them out, and not having a relationship. What's different about Tumolo Financial?
Yeah, so that's the piece that I get to enjoy now. Before working for someone, I had a lot of clients. It's almost embarrassing. It was embarrassing to even tell clients. But basically, they wanted me just to bring clients on. It was a factory, is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
I brought on about 100 clients a year, 110 clients a year, somewhere in that range. Worked there for 5 years and then left. When I left, I had a little over 500 clients I was managing. And it's too much if you're doing the planning. What I did was one thing, like, I worked for a big group before. Uh, One of their things was they limited the number of clients you can have. It was around 150. And
Okay.
and yeah, I didn't realize why they did it until I had a whole bunch of clients. The reason they actually did that was so that you can keep, continually take care of your client. This way, you're
Yes.
not constantly selling, constantly trying to keep up with 500 clients. You're
Yes.
keeping up with 150. 150 is very manageable. And
Yes.
so that was the difference. Limited the clients so that we can actually do 6-month reviews. A lot of advisors don't do that, but it works very well. And as we're adding advisors on, the advisors we're adding on, we're limiting them to the same 150 clients. Now, I
Okay.
will add this in, and someone else asked me this, and this was months back at a board meeting I went to, and the person asked me, "Well, how do you keep growing the company then if you're limiting advisors and then you're limiting yourself?" One of the things that
Yes.
we're actually able to do is, as we're adding advisors, they're sitting in with me as a servicing advisor, so that I've already hit about 140 clients. I'm not going to add too many more clients under just me, but I will just
Okay.
start adding them on with those new advisors. Those new advisors will actually start to meet with clients or prospects directly themselves too as time goes. But this way I can train them, and I want them to do the things that I feel are right.
So, and I think you already answered this question to an advisor who would be like, "Come on, Ken. The more advisors, the more money you make." Number one, that's not your why. That's a result of your why. I think is you love educating people, and as a result, you are writing a lot of business. But it's not that you're trying to limit the amount of clients that Tumolo Financial will take on. You're just limiting the amount of clients you personally will take on, and then you're adding advisors to take on more clients for themselves.
Exactly. Yeah, and then they would actually start to see people themselves and bring people on. So you're not hurting the company.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, everyone wins. The client wins because they get to see the advisor more, and the advisor gives them more time. And you want them to do the right job for the client. And then the advisor wins too, because the advisor can actually have quality of life too. Because if that advisor is only seeing so many people, then they're getting home at 5 or 6 o'clock at night, and they're enjoying their night. They might have things to do with kids, or family, their wife, or husband, and basically you're all around. Everyone wins, I feel.
So when you worked for the other company, managing 500 clients, was the work life balance off?
There was no no balance. Started out the first year like that, but then after that, it's when you're going 8 to 8, 8 to 10. It's hard, and I know a lot of advisors do it because a lot of advisors, from what I can tell in the field, and I've talked to a lot of advisors that I've met over the years, a lot of them just go and go and go, and some of it has to do with sales process and how they're driving clients in, prospecting, so, because some of the avenues are just a little bit more labor intensive than others. So we've streamlined a lot of it. In fact, we don't even work Saturdays or Sundays. We just work Monday to Friday, and that's it. And you don't need to be doing things on the weekend. Well, you don't need to be working on the weekend if you don't have to. And it's really that work life balance. We never know in life. I think I told you my dad passed young, and him passing young made me realize a long time ago that you have to have some balance. Everything's not all about work and piling in money into your accounts. It's really about, you've got to enjoy life along the way.
You mentioned that your son works in the business. Are you a family owned business? Do you have more family in the business?
Oh yeah, we're lucky. We basically, so the first business I opened up back in '98, I think I did it, or yeah, '98. My wife worked with me, so
Okay.
actually I need her because she's so organized, and she knows how to make things go. And so she came on, worked with me here, Nick, my son, my oldest, works as an advisor with us, and basically he's actually one of the partners now. So he's doing very well, really picking it up, going
Nice.
for his CFP also. And now his wife actually works with us too, Alyssa, who's doing all the marketing behind the scenes. Of course, we get help from other people on our marketing, but but the majority of it, like ideas, I'll think of something, and I'm probably they both pick on me. Yeah, I could go out on a plane and go visit, go out, on a trip, just a trip, and on a plane, I start thinking about things, and I come back and I go, oh, what if we do this? What if we do this? And it's just no shortage of ideas sometimes, and they kind of ground me and say, well, that's probably not something we're going to want to do, or that's a real good idea. What if we add this mix to it? And so we work together well, and it's just everyone kind of does their own thing.
So I know from knowing you in the past, Ken, that you are an idea machine and you've done some pretty unique, unusual ideas. Can you talk a little bit about those? I know specifically the shopping cart ads that you were doing and stuff. How did those work for you? And then can you maybe touch just on what do you do for lead generation? How do you get in front of your next prospect?
Oh, we're doing so many things now. It had to do with COVID. COVID, I panicked. So we started the company in 2019 at the end of the year, and then by March, COVID, we were shut down as a state. And so we only had about a 5 month run at getting the company started. And so the main way of bringing in clients for us was workshops because I knew how to do them. They just worked those educational dinner events. I still do them. I usually do one or two a month, but we've built on top of that since, and it was really because of my fear after COVID of not having a funnel of people coming in here. So I've got a long list, and you're probably like, wow, you're doing a lot. But we do the Tumolo Talks, which is basically a video that goes out to our email list monthly, little educational things. And it's past prospects. And believe it or not, a lot of people end up calling and they just trickle in. They're like, oh, yeah, I've been watching them for months. We came to a workshop 2 years ago. We're ready. We need you. So people are ready when they're ready. So you're in our in the world of marketing, I think you call it dripping on them, which I wish there was a better word for it. uh, the newsletters go out by email, and then a lot of times we use Advisor Stream, but now we're starting to use a group called Levitate. The articles within there that they're creating and emails to a lot of it is pre-written for us, so we're not thinking as much. But it's a lot of good stuff that we pick through. So that's one avenue. Facebook ads that Alyssa runs, where when we're doing a Tumolo talk, she'll run it as a Facebook ad, and people will actually sign up for our email list for that. Uh, Dinner seminars, I mentioned. We also do maybe one or two white glove events per year where they'll draw people into a college for us for 4 nights, and we'll just do an hour seminar on taxes. So that's, and those people come in usually pretty serious because it's about learning. They're not looking for a meal. Not that people come to the dinner seminars just for a meal, but it happens sometimes. Lastly, we added in two areas, and we've been actually getting better and better at this. We did a radio show. I've added more stations, and and it's taken a while. I've done it a little over a year now. Pretty much weekly, we're getting leads off of it, and I've automated it where they call into a call center, and then they'll book it right on our calendar for us. And the newest thing this year, and I know you know about this, was the whole TV thing where we started running commercials. And those have been getting better and better, where now all of a sudden we get on a TV commercial anywhere from, we'll say, 2 leads to 11 leads every time we run it now. And we only run it 4 times a month now. So we basically just have, built all these avenues for leads where what we're able to do is we don't have to run a workshop every week because the other avenues are working. It's more diversified, like investing. You want to diversify your investments. We tell clients all the time that. And And you think about it, as an advisor, a lot of us use like one avenue for our leads. Either we're getting lead lists, or we're just doing seminars. I actually diversified the marketing side out to get more people to call and book on our calendar. And I'm going to tell you, one of the best things we did was when we redid our website, just putting that button up there for them to book an appointment right away. People will go right there and book an appointment. Lastly, and I'm probably going to miss something because we just do so many things in marketing, we put together a couple books along the way. The first run, I did it through a group and I didn't like the book, but we just recently did about an 80-page book that people can download right off of Facebook. We offer it on the radio now, so they can actually have us just mail it out to them. And on that, we actually built an email address so that they request it through the email address, and they type in their address and everything. This way we don't misspell things. If they misspelled their name and address, then it's on
Their
them.
fault.
But copying, yeah, just to be able to copy and paste, it's the greatest thing. So,
That's really good. Do you do anything for client appreciation?
oh yeah, I left that out too. We do them once a year. Although last year, I think after this year though, we're probably going to have to do a 2-night event, just because you're trying to keep a smaller venue where you keep it down to about 150 people. I will tell you, last year we did one in our area. It's called Mystic Aquarium, but they set up tables in between all the aquariums, and there was no loudspeaker. So what we did was, as people got their food, I just spent time going around to all the tables. The whole time there, I didn't get to eat. By the time it was done, it took me a bit to get to every single table. So for a client appreciation event, just I want to be able to talk to everyone. So again, like the whole client thing, we're probably going to have to do it as a 2-night event eventually, probably next year, just so that I can get around and talk to everyone. Just because they came there, yes, it's a client appreciation event, but I know they all want to talk to us too. So I want to make sure I give them the time.
You mentioned that you don't like the word dripping on them. I agree. I think I like the word nurturing. That sounds a little bit better instead of saying I drip on them. But, there's lead generation. So your seminars and your radio and your TV. And I love your example of diversifying, because from my experience from talking to advisors, if you were to take, let's say you have $100,000 a year marketing budget, if you were to take that $100,000 and put it all into TV or all into radio or all into seminars and not diversify, your ROI would be much smaller. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, because we found that if you target one area, you can make it work. But the reason why multiple work too, I know you already know this too. It's the unmeasurable, meaning just talking on the radio, and that person that doesn't call you from the radio, they might get a seminar invite, and they read the name on the invite and like, oh, I heard that guy. And then what they do is they'll sign up for the seminar. So I'm going to say it's the unmeasurable that and and what's happened is over the time, it's just improved everything. Plus, on everything that we do, we're always mentioning the Tumolo Financial Retirement Checkup, which is our process. And so by the time they're calling us or meeting with us, they're already asking for the retirement checkup.
So what else do you do? Because I really like the fact that you have 150 clients, because you're able to spend more time with them. To me, that's lead nurturing, because you have your clients and maybe they're like, well, sure, Ken, I'll try you out and I'll give you $100,000, but they have $1 million in the bank or whatever. So to me, the fact that you're continuing to develop relationships with your clients, that is a form of lead nurturing. It's not lead generation. They're already a lead, they're a client, but now you're nurturing that client. Then you do the email drip system and you do client appreciation events. Anything else that you do to nurture leads? So if they come to a seminar and they don't buy from you, do you do anything else besides put them in that drip system or show them the videos of the Tumolo talks?
To be honest with you, and I know it's I probably should call them a little bit more after, but we're so laid back, and it's worked being laid back where we usually end up meeting with them. Let's say they come to an event and they book a first appointment, they come to a second appointment. So usually it's either the second or third appointment that they become a client. Now, if they don't, and based on certain things they say, I know I can pretty much read where to go with it. But let's just say the impression is, or they flat out say they don't want to work with us, let's say, or they're not ready to move from their advisor. What I usually do is I tell them, well, I call you anyways in a week to see if you have questions. And then I usually check in with them. I should be doing it 3 months later, but 3 months seems to turn into 6 months. But it actually works because in between they're getting the newsletter, the Tumolo talks, and what happens? I call them in 6 months. They still remember who I am, and I've had people 6 months later. We call them up and they go, "Yeah, no, we'd like to come back in and see you again." And they come back in, and usually that second time they come back in after they thought for 3 to 6 months, they're just ready to work with us. And it might have been just giving them a chance to see their advisor again to see that their advisor doesn't do what we do, or it was a chance for them to visit with a few other advisors, and then they say, you know what, you got with the first guy or the second guy that we just met with, we got to go back to Tumolo Financial. So sometimes it's a time thing.
Yeah, you said when they're ready, they're ready. And I think that is so insightful and something that a lot of advisors don't see. And so they chase after that low hanging fruit from a seminar, or from a radio, or whatever. But I love the nurturing and just say, hey, when they're ready, they're ready.
Yeah. So the advisor that, in just my experience, my personal experience, if I meet with someone and they try to sell me and they try to sell me hard, I'll never consider working with them. That's why I do it the way that I do it, because later on, if I'm really nice to them and I help them, then down the road, they'll want to still work with me. They're not going to remember us as that group that you went to, and we basically were just, a car salesman.
Yes. And if they don't buy from you after the first, second, or third appointment, they're not dead to you. They're still a lead. You still do whatever. And again, it's something that I love that just because they're not ready now doesn't mean they're not ready ever. And you can't time the market and you can't time your client's needs. So keep nurturing them, keep dripping on them. I was going to ask you about the CFP, the Certified Financial Planner. Do you recommend that every advisor get that, and why?
So it's one of two. It's really the CFP. A lot of people view it as the top designation out there. I guess it actually is, and I recommend it. I mean, it gives credibility. The other piece of it too, I've actually had people that will tell me, yeah, no, the person I work with, I want them to be a CFP. Does it make a person that's really smart that doesn't have the CFP any less? No, because I've met some smart people that don't have a CFP and they know just as much as I know. But when you're out there and clients are looking to invest their life savings, which is everything to them, there's just certain things they're going to look for. There's one other designation out there that actually fits our field really good, and I forget. Oh, wow. And now that I have to think about it, it actually has to do about retirement income planning. And a lot of advisors are actually starting to go get that one. So as a close second, I would say there's that one other designation. Yeah, I forget
Is
the
it the
name of it.
RICP?
That's it, RICP.
Yeah.
It's actually it's focused at what we do, whereas the CFP is everything. The CFP, it's the
Yes.
tax side of it, the estate planning side of it, and the investment piece of it, which rounds you out, whereas the income planning one is strictly income planning. And if you think about it, we'll say the majority of people that go visit with an advisor and they get close to retirement, the big piece they care about is income. And so you've got to make sure the income is coming in. I just take it a step further and I build a lot of tax strategies in what I do. So,
But I've actually been to one of your seminars, and I believe that somebody asked a tax question, and maybe the normal financial advisor would be able to answer that, but I just remember you answered it with ease. So I've got to imagine that the CFP designation has helped you like with be able to answer all the stuff surrounding finances.
It helps a lot. Plus, having a little bit of business tax background, and then also my son working with me, Nick, his degree is in accounting. We get a lot of answers, and then local accountants that we work with. Uh, it seems like they're more of the ones that we work with are more of the same like I am. They want to teach. So when I call them up and I ask them about a client, and of course I can't share names always with them unless the client gives permission, but they'll actually get in, give me a more detailed answer. Oh, it's because of this, this, and this, and I learn from them too. So it's really I've learned a lot along the way, and it just makes it easier to answer a lot of those questions. If I don't know the answer, and I'll tell people I can't give you tax advice that you got to go back that you can go back and do. I always say, yeah, if you do this, this, and this, it creates this tax savings. This is something I can talk through with your accountant. Is a lot of times how it goes. And sometimes I actually talk to their accountant, and their accountants, yeah, I didn't think about that, or oh, I didn't know they actually had that. And so it actually opens up conversation where we're figuring out things between the accountant and myself on ways to help the client even more.
You mentioned a couple of minutes ago that the CFP helps make you more credible. What else do you do to be credible to your clients?
I found that yeah, I kind of mentioned it with the marketing piece of it. It's really when people recognize, and it's going to be brand recognition. And it might have been in one of my conversations with you actually. And I think it was a presentation that I went to where you're actually talking about, as an advisor, you can be extremely smart, know your stuff, be a genius, and you struggle to bring on clients. Whereas that advisor that is very good at marketing, but might not be that, I'll just say, not as smart on those strategies and so forth, they'll have way more clients and just do so much better. So I kind of want to be the mix. Is get enough marketing out there to gain credibility. So when they hear you on the radio, see you on TV, they just see your branding everywhere. Then they're like, oh yeah, I guess they're doing good. That's someone that we should be talking to. So it's because to do some of this marketing stuff, and I'm not telling you anything new, a lot of this costs money, and to do a lot of these things, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars I mean, our budget is through the roof now, but I shouldn't say that.
Yeah.
But I was looking at the numbers, and 3 years ago, I didn't think I would spend what I spend now for marketing, and so I look at it, I'm like, but our revenue has gone up so much more, and so it works. It's just balancing it out.
When we've exchanged emails, I've seen on your email signature, as seen in Kiplinger's, as seen on ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox. And I know from working with other advisors, they'll send me their seminar invitation in the mail or send me an email, and it doesn't say anything like that. And I know from talking to advisors and just studying marketing for all these years that if a prospect gets an invitation in the mail to a seminar, well, for one, they're probably getting two or three. But if they get something in the mail and they get two or three, and if they're serious about their retirement, they're going to pick, well, let me back up. If they're serious about getting a good meal, they're going to pick the restaurant that appeals to them the most, like a nice steakhouse or an Italian, high-end Italian restaurant. But if they're serious about their retirement, they're going to pick the advisor with the most credibility. And so using those highly recognized logos like Kiplinger's, ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox, that's only giving the advisor credibility and that brand recognition and making them a celebrity in their area. I know that helps because the advisors, they're separating themselves from their competition by having that stuff on their websites and on their mailers and stuff like that.
Yeah, I feel it does. It's just everything adds up. In fact, you mentioned restaurants. We did some testing. We ran a few seminars in really, really high-end restaurants. And then we ran, and just to measure the difference. What we found is we actually had more people show up to those high end restaurants, but they showed up for the meal. And
Mm,
running the middle of the road restaurant where it's, we'll just say $30, $40 a plate per person showing up, we found that we'll draw in when you're targeting who you want to invite, you pick, income and their assets and so forth.
yes.
We'll actually draw the same type of person asset wise into these middle of the road restaurants, but the numbers are way higher as far as who books an appointment, who becomes a client. So I don't feel I feel all of the marketing that we've done has made it where we don't have to overdo it with the restaurant. So you actually save a little
Okay.
bit on that end. And you're drawing people that actually want to come in. They're more serious. Like, yeah, I know it's over at this restaurant. It's not the greatest restaurant, but I've heard this guy and I want to hear this guy. So
Wow.
yeah, so we're finding that
Wow.
yeah, we gave up on the higher end restaurants.
That's fascinating. So you're eliminating the people who are just coming for the meal because they've seen you on radio, they've seen you on TV and stuff. And whereas again, coming back to if you would put all of your marketing budget into just seminars, you wouldn't have that advantage of being able to choose a middle of the road restaurant.
Now I feel we'd have to stay at the higher end on the restaurant to draw the bigger leads. So it's yeah, it's gotten to the point where it doesn't matter. And I'm not talking about doing it at McDonald's, but
Yes, right, 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 right.
it's still a good meal. It's just we don't have to go and pay $90, $80, $70 a meal. It's we're down there in that $40 range. In fact, one our best performing restaurant, I think we pay maybe $27 per person that comes to eat there,
Wow.
and the food's excellent. I always take something home.
Nice. Hey,
Yeah.
you said you did some experiments to figure all that out. You've heard the saying, I'm sure, you can't measure or you can't manage what you don't measure. Do you guys measure everything so you're able to say, hey, we sent out this many mailers to this restaurant, we got this response rate and stuff like that? Because I can't imagine you being able to spout out these numbers with me unless you guys are using a CRM or doing some kind of managing.
Spreadsheets. Yeah, so Nick and Alyssa will track all of that. They'll break it down, and then where I can just take a look at it and say, okay, that restaurant's not performing. This is good. This is bad. We've got it down where we can really figure it out. Even when we're doing testing with the radio, uh, we've been running where we track it by phone number coming in, and we already know one of the stations that I pay, it's just not performing. So at the end of this year, we're not going to renew with them. We'll just keep the other two
Okay.
stations that are doing well. So yeah, you have to track it. Otherwise, you're just spending money, and you might not be making it. There might not be any return on that.
How do you track I mean, I guess I'm already answering my own question. You can't really track some of those unmeasurables, though. You just sometimes that's an educated guess, I think, right?
So the one thing I will tell you, people will actually tell you. I because so after the seminar, so I'll speak in front, Nick will speak up front, and then when we're walking around after, before the meals come out, I'll go around and talk to people. And I can't tell you how many people will say to us, "Yeah, we heard you on the radio," or "We get your Facebook stuff," or they're in for their first or second appointment, and they'll actually tell us that they get that stuff, and like, "Oh, we know the stuff's working." So you
Yeah.
can't measure it, I guess, by a number, but if we've got enough people that are telling us they're getting it and that's how they're learning more about us, then we know it's definitely having an effect.
I'm curious about your metals. I always find it fascinating when I talk to advisors, whether I'm in their office or a Zoom call or what we're doing right now, what's behind them. So I know you have the CFP designation back there. Tell me about your metals.
Oh boy, I do a little bit of running, uh,
A
as
little
you
bit.
can see. Uh, and then basically what so half marathons, I've run a bunch over the years. I'm not, they're not first place medals. They're just basically that I completed them. But the crazy thing is, I actually ran my fastest marathon now, and I'm 50 now. And the first marathon I ran, I think I might have been 40. 41 years old. And but a lot of it came down to training, and I would have never thought my fastest marathon would have came at 50. It was a full hour less than my best ever. So, but yeah, I enjoy running. It gives me a way to, I almost want to say relax, but I do it every morning now. I just wake up, I'll go out, I'll run. Some days I won't run, but it's usually running at least 5 days a week now. And I just enjoy doing it. Plus, it gives me a chance. My Nick is into running. He's finally started running again. So it gives me a chance to do something else with him. Then my middle son runs. He lives in Florida, so I go down there and run races with him now. So it's just another way to do family things too. So it's I find little things to do. My youngest son actually races cars, the little four-cylinder junk cars that they race at the local speed racetrack. But I'll spend time even with him on the weekend working on his car. So it's just doing the fun things and hanging out with them.
Because you have that work life balance because you limited the amount of clients that you see.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of people basically, when I told them that I do that, they're like, how do you actually survive and make money? But it's, you, I mean, the thing is with the way things are set now with, where you're managing money, you're continually paid monthly on that anyway. And so it's not like you're starving. And maybe it's just me with the greed factor. I mean, I don't know. If you took away everything that I have, I'd probably still be okay, just because I'd find a way to enjoy life. I guess that's the best way to put it. Because even when I was running my other company, and that one was a struggle. We were successful, but it was a struggle. We learned to live on a lot less, and it's we were all happy though still. So I guess it's at the end of the day, it's that balance of being happy.
What I always like to end these interviews with this question. What's one piece of advice that you would tell your younger self when you were just starting off in the business?
My younger self, if I go way back to when I was younger, I would have said get into the financial world earlier. Skip my
Okay.
other. But I was lucky. And the reason why I say I was lucky is, yes, I started out first with a big group. I might have said it was Merrill Lynch, and I had a headhunter call me at my desk because I actually did not like the field for the year that I was there. It was a sales job, and I knew nothing about being independent or working for an independent. Headhunter got a hold of me at my desk, was like, that sounds too good to be true. But I took the job, had a chance to work under an independent that was actually doing all of these, a lot of the things that I do marketing wise. He was already doing a lot of that already. So I had a chance to learn. Not everyone just not everyone has that chance that I had, and really getting a chance to work with someone that you can learn from, and then taking it from there and going and doing it, kind of my own way now. But it's I just the only I can say I ended up being lucky. And would I change anything on starting this? No, I wouldn't. I just the only thing I'd love to take out is that little bump in the road when COVID came in. But other than that, it's been fun.
When did you go independent? It was like the year before, right? And then all of a
Yeah,
sudden, COVID.
yeah, yeah. About 5 months before.
Oh my gosh.
Whereas people in the industry, they had a whole bunch of clients. I couldn't go back to my clients because there's a non-compete. People in the industry were able to go to their file cabinet and keep going. Whereas I was like, hey, what do I do? And I actually did webinars. I left that out. I don't do them anymore, but I did that pretty much right when COVID started. About a month later, I was doing webinars. Just to figure out something to do, and it's just being creative.
Any last words that you want to leave with the listener? Any words of advice or wisdom with anyone who's listening?
I would just say, it's that work life balance. You kind of got to keep that. And then the creativity piece of it. Yeah, no shortage of ideas here, but being able to bounce it off a person or two and then figuring out, hey, is this actually something that I probably should be doing or we should be doing? That really helps because I will say without the marketing piece of it, uh, I really wouldn't be where I was today. I mean, that drives everything.
Well, Ken, thank you again so much for taking time. I know you have a busy schedule, especially during this season, and I really appreciate you taking the time out to spend a couple minutes with me.